In today's episode of Artisan Advice, we're going to think outside the lens and look at 3 surprisingly great lenses for portrait photography that you may not have thought to use. A lens that recently stormed its way into my portrait work is the 200 to 600mm G-Series lens. I made an entire video about this lens that will be linked in the description below. But the main thing you need to know here is that it's not just for sports and wildlife photography. Working in those longer focal ranges outdoors can often take a boring location like the parking lot at my studio and turn it into something that looks much more visually appealing. One thing that really surprised me with this lens is the bokeh that it produces. You might think that having a variable f5.6 to 6.3 aperture that you won't be able to isolate your subject the way that you can with an f1.4 lens, but check this out. When you're shooting at those longer focal ranges, even at those narrow f-stops, you get beautiful subject separation and your background is still blurred beautifully. If you want your work to look different than the majority of photographers out there, this is a lens you definitely want to try out. This next lens was another one that surprised me from the very first time that I used it, and that's the Sony 40mm f2.5 G-Series lens. This compact prime lens is among the smallest and lightest available in Sony's lineup, but it doesn't skimp on performance. When I took this lens out for a portrait shoot, at first I thought it was going to be more of a travel lens, since 40mm is really close to the perspective of the human eye. Well, it turns out that it's actually pretty amazing for environmental portraiture as well. I'm a huge fan of bringing the best quality optics when I shoot outdoors that also happens to be easy to carry. And this checks all of those boxes. The f2.5 aperture also gives you gorgeous bokeh, and that 40mm focal length is really a sweet spot when you want to capture sharp images of your subject while getting a nice perspective of their surroundings. Hey, don't make the mistake that I made of thinking this is just a cute travel lens. It is a silent assassin for portrait work as well. When I say macro lens, what kind of images comes to your mind? For me, I think of close-up images of coins or bugs, but did you know that you could take some next level portraits using a macro lens too? One of my all-time favorite lenses for Sony cameras is the 90mm f2.8 G-Series macro. It does something niche when it comes to portrait photography, which is to give you a level of detail and sharpness that's hard to find in just about any other lens out there. For example, in my beauty work, the 90 macro enhances the texture of the skin, hair, accessories, and wardrobe of my subjects, and it's all done in camera. Anytime you want to get the maximum levels of sharpness and detail, don't make the mistake of thinking that you could just sharpen your images in post. The results are completely different, and from my experience, people will notice that something has been done to alter the image in post-production. If you want a more natural looking sharpness, then using a lens like this is truly unbeatable. Fast and accurate focusing along with a lightweight, durable build make this a lens that I think every portrait photographer should have in their bag. Especially if you pair it up with a high resolution camera like the Sony Alpha 7R5. Anyway, these 3 lenses are some of the lenses that I think people are surprised to see being used in the portrait world. But I'm curious to hear which lenses that you like that might not traditionally be seen as a portrait lens. Let's talk about it in the comment section below. While you're there, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on all of our latest videos. I've got a bunch of great advice for you that you may have missed, so check them out and let me know what you think. See you there.